This is the second series that I have been preparing for you as Easy Speak users. Thank you, Doug, for letting me know that you can hear me. We have quite a few in the room today, and thank you for letting us know where you're from. Scrolling back to remind myself, we have Joanne from Sydney, Australia, Moses from Hamilton, New Zealand, Lynette from Pretoria, South Africa, Gary from New York City in the USA, and Doug, I know, is from Canadian Club, and it's quite late for him. Canadian Club, let me see. Always good with my iPad beside me to check on any notes that are in. And Doug tells me that he is from Athabasca, and the club name is Athabasca Landing Toastmasters, and that club is almost 19 years old. As users of EasySpeak, we have something in common. Apart from all being in Toastmasters, we're also, hopefully, champions of this particular type of software that helps us manage our tasks. My day is to work through with you some very basic tools and tasks that we need to know when scheduling meetings, features, and roles. And I've adapted these slides from some that I did a couple of years ago and revamped them for today. So it gives me a rough mud map to build on for this particular workshop. That doesn't mean I can't be persuaded to talk about other things. I'm keen to know the answer to some of those burning questions. So there will be plenty of opportunity for you to ask them. And if you're not sure if it's working, please I have a question to you first, and if you would please answer in the text chat. Think about how you go about creating your meetings for users. What kind of process do you use? For example, forward plan and create meetings in advance. Are they done all together, or do you do them one a week? Or just how do you create your meetings? Is there a protocol in your flow that you follow? And whilst you're thinking and typing in your answers, I'll give you some of my strategies for creating meetings. I've been working with Speak now for some years, and I've worked across different time zones and different club settings, and each club is slightly different the way they set out and create their meetings. Some of the larger clubs ensure that every role that you can possibly have in a meeting is part of that meeting. Some of the online clubs will create meetings once a smaller clubs who are just beginning will create their meetings a couple of weeks ago. My preference is to plan ahead for about 4 to 6 weeks, depending on whether your club meets fortnightly. Hey, Joanne is saying that she creates her meetings 2 or 3 in advance and uses the auto-assign roles in EasySpeak. Joanne, if you have your microphone working and you'd like to talk about that, feel free to. Continue down the list. Let's not get to speak, but Doug is looking at using.
So, um, this is Joanne. So, we've been Easy Speak for a number of years now, and we've set up meeting templates. That's all pretty straightforward, and then we usually use the auto assign function, which has formulas in the background that will only assign members a role that if they haven't done it for about 4 to 6 weeks, meetings prior. So that's how we fast track our meeting agenda preparation.
Thank you, Joanne. That's awesome. I know that you are a very skilled Easy Speak user now, working with it for years. I'm hoping that my audio volume, like Doug is just having some problems. I'm going to mute your mic back. And video. And let's see what others are saying here. Alison, Dance Club have it sending out a fully voluntary agenda 1 week out from the meeting. That works very well for an advanced club, and it's kind of the way we do it for our online clubs too. We expect our members to self-assign themselves to those meetings. And Moses is in that position, CPE for the Toastmasters Without Borders, our global online clubs. And the two things Moses is saying there is first decide what format is appropriate, and that might stand for two features, table topics. And I think that's an important step to take to create your meeting, because you might have several different types of meetings. Ouch, I think that was your microphone then, Moses. Did you want to speak?
Yes, okay. I've just received an email from Kim. Kim is the president of the club, Toastmasters Without Borders. And what she's doing is she's experimenting with the type of agendas that would suit a club. And she's using a club that she's attending right now. And so what she's doing is she's letting me know, Mo, we need to actually find out which is the most optimum type of agenda that would suit Toastmasters Without Borders. Should we have 2 speeches? Should we have 3 speeches? Should we have table topics? So really, we're just sort of not humming and hawing, but we're deciding which is the best format to use with those who are attending Toastmasters Without Borders. So she's divided it into 2 phases. The first phase is to deliver successful online meetings, so to decide about the optimum one. Once that's achieved, then to start helping the members achieve their Toastmaster goals. So I'm just working in collaboration with Kim and the president to actually try to create an agenda that would suit all those who participate with Toastmasters online. That's what we do.
Thank you, Moses. Now mute your microphone. So hear lots of noise right there. Just mute you. A very wise plan. One needs to know what is best for your club. And I imagine that it will change time to time. One of the first things that I do is I check the calendar, find out where I'm up to in scheduling ahead for those meetings. And you can see here, not very clearly, but the calendar for the King Arthur's Playground site, which is where we go to practice, already has 3 meetings set up for the month of September. And you may see down towards the bottom here that I've clicked on to this meeting, the 8th of September, to pop up what is the content of that one. That's the first thing that I do. The next thing that I would need to do to go to the meeting list and find out, in this case, what other meetings have been scheduled by those who are in the playground. This is managed by many, and it can get very, very complex and very busy. I imagine that in your club, it would not have the same kind of complexity, given that you may be the only one who is creating it. The reason I come into the meeting list in playground is to see whether the meetings that have been scheduled actually include the Toastmaster of the day and two of the major role takers, such as a general evaluator and a topics master. And I can see that on that meeting list quite clearly. What I would suggest that you do, as I give you some of these examples, if you're comfortable in multitasking on your computer, to open up your own club site and to go into your own meeting list. And you'll find a meeting list underneath one of the main menus at the top. Those are one for this club. It will give you a link to the meeting. Yeah, on the main menu. The meeting list for the King Arthur's Playground is showing me what has been scheduled for the future. I might need to go in and make some adjustments. A little question for you. Have you seen the meeting list in your own EasySpeak site before? In your app? When you're creating a meeting, you may be doing some in a hurry. You might be just making sure that there's something in place for the next 3 to 4 meetings, but you may not be putting in all the details at that one time. Yes, the meeting list is found underneath the This Club menu. Find that one. So I check in the meeting list. The next thing that I will do then is create a meeting. And there are several things that you need to do when you're creating a meeting. The first, of course, is to choose what type of meeting, and mostly they will be ordinary Toastmaster meetings. On occasions, there might be committee meetings. For instance, we're doing an ordinary Toastmaster meeting. The date and the starting time should automatically pop up according to what has been set for your club. So in the control panel, your webmaster or yourself may have already selected the dates for your meetings and the time. The venue may not vary. It might be the same venue each time. But in a club like the fictitious one, playground, there are several venues to choose from. So you can use the drop-down list to indicate which venue goes next. The meeting number should also be automatic. The system will count the meetings that you have created before and follow the sequence of numbers. You may then put in place a meeting theme. For this particular meeting, I've selected a theme that's quite different, called Public Speaking in a Pub. And underneath that, you can select the particular agenda that you choose. Now, this is important when you consider what Moses was saying before, that you want to choose the template that will give you the style of meeting that you want. 3 speakers, 2 speakers and an educational. And we would need a whole session on template building. So I'm not going to go into great detail there, but certainly ask any questions you want. So all the templates are in place underneath that drop-down list for select agenda. The next important one, where you see that red arrow, is to choose a meeting manager. I was interested to know, and you could answer this in the comments, whether you always select a different meeting manager when you create your meeting. The meeting manager may not necessarily be the Toastmaster today, but generally that's the idea behind setting the meeting manager. The name of the person that goes in there has their permissions changed when they become a meeting manager. So you do need to make sure that the person you are giving that role to knows that this will change what they can do. For example, they will be able to assign roles and send out meeting email reminders. Then you would put in whatever message you want into the body and you will submit or create. So does anyone else have any notions about setting a meeting manager? And that, for example, meeting manager at this, that's fine, you can have that. And it makes a streamlined. Let's move on. When you created your meeting, there are two ways that you can view it. If you had known that before, you can view it as an officer or VPE, you've got access to everything. Sometimes, though, you'll want to look at your menu or agenda as an ordinary member. It's slightly different. You can see that this is the same meeting, but it's a member view. And for the person who is setting up the meeting, that is often important. You get to see what to expect your members. Moses, you're asking a question. Looking at the club meeting, I'm not sure what to answer your question with there. I'm a bit.
I'm on this club as you've suggested, but I'm sort of like confused. Like I'm not too sure. I'm on this club now as a club home, club directory, club offices, photo album, user list. Is that the right drop-down menu that I should be on?
Oh, I see now what your question is. Thank you for clarifying that for me.
That's all right.
Double check then. I've just opened up my regular Easy Speak program here and now log in and just double check that I've given you the right information. And so that we'll be on the same page together. So when we go into this club menu, no, I misled you. My apologies. What you need to do is go to the meetings menu. And when you point to the meetings menu, you will see the meeting list towards the bottom of that drop down list. Sorry about misleading you there. Excellent. I'm glad you found it. Thank you, Joanne, for helping me out there. So keep that in mind that there's a couple of different ways for you to view the way the meeting looks when you've set it up. And going back to how it looks for you as the VPE, you've got many more options where you can assign roles, you can delete them, you can change them, edit the meeting text, add in a grammarian word of the day, etc. And the buttons at the top, the icons at the top right, are really quite important. you remember. If you were a bricks and mortar club and you take along a menu, the agenda, then you would use this icon right on the top right hand corner, which allows you to print the agenda on your computer. There is a detailed one, the icon immediately below. If you want absolutely everything to show up for your Toastmaster today, you could print one of those for that person. A question for you to answer in the text chat now is, how much detail do you normally put into your meeting agenda? For example, do you always list the times for every role? Do you ensure that printed agenda actually displays all of those times for every role? That's interesting, Gary, that you're saying that the guests love the extreme amount of detail. I have found the opposite. Some that the visitors and guests often find that kind of agenda overwhelming and confusing. So we often do too, where we have a simplified agenda and a detailed one. But to each their own, of course. Joanne is saying that yes, they always show the times for all the items. This is really helpful for your planner. Move on. The next thing, of course, is how do you ensure that you can get your members to sign up for a role in advance? Well, maybe I should step back a bit and ask you in the next, okay? Do you allow your members to self-select a role? And to do the self-selection, they use the option called sign up for meetings. In this particular example, it's showing 4 meetings in advance, and where you see the little green thumbs up, that means that it's available for selection. Let's find out what you have to say about that. To allow your members to sign up in advance. Thanks, Gary. That's interesting. I think it is important that the guests get an opportunity to give some feedback like that. I like your thinking there also, Gary, because if you do put the ownership and control back in the hands of your members, the VPE job becomes so much easier. Not everyone will do so. We do often have in our bricks club some members who are not computer literate, and they might only want to tell you in voice by telephone if they want it. But you have to be prepared to be flexible. So the VPE will do both. Will allow members to sign up. Before we move on, let's just see if you've got any other comments or questions about setting up your meetings. If you'd like to use the microphone, please do. Any questions about setting up your meetings? Excellent, Gary. It looks like you are the champion there in your district for speak. Glad to hear that you are able to go around and help train your VPEs. That's something that we try to do in District 73. All right, as there's no more questions about meetings, okay, we'll move on then to how we go about scheduling a requested speech. Can you tell me what process you use for that? Do you ring up and find out who has speech they want to give? Or ask your members to request speech using I'm suggesting that they sign up or request a given week. When we're requesting a speech, though, when we're scheduling a speech, we may face a situation where the person doesn't know how to request it, but has told you in another way. They might send an email or have written into your sign-up sheet at the end of the meeting. So in that case, there are some steps that you can follow that will allow you to schedule a speech on behalf of that member. Joanne's saying here that usually request their own speeches, but ensuring that the CC and CL manuals are in place for them. Gary, that's interesting that your emails are sent out and you're asking them to sign up. All right, let's have a look at this one. In this case, Minnie, who is the VPE of King Arthur's Playground, wants to schedule some speeches in advance. She's already set up her 3 or 4 meetings, see here on the screen. She's not sure if the people have actually requested this speech, so she can do it for herself. To go to the scheduled speeches option in EasySpeak, you'll need to click into that particular part of the left-hand navigation tab, and it should leap out at you if you're a VPE. It's called Scheduling and VPE Tasks. The very first one is it can look quite busy. Often on the right-hand side of this, there's other information. You can turn that on or off to make it more streamlined. This is what I mean. The page that you were looking at a moment ago has the opportunity for scheduling the speeches on the left. It also shows some of the detail about the goals for the members on the right-hand side. And will also, in this case, list in order those who have signed up and who have scheduled speeches recently. So this is a nice little clue as to when you should be able to allocate the next group of speeches for those members. Trying to keep it democratic, I guess is the word, and not allow anyone to hog the scene. You can have a look at what they've done before, right at the time you're wanting to schedule. And from that information, you might then go ahead and look for their request to speech in that drop down. They haven't yet requested a speech, but you know that they are planning to do so. You can, of course, assign the speech on behalf of them. In the text chat, can you tell me if you've done that before? If you've actually gone ahead and created the request to speech detail for another member. It's a very busy slide here, but the first bit you'll see is on the scheduling panel at the top. There's this tiny little icon next to the assignment drop down. And if you click into that one, it will allow you to request a speech for a person. Large section here will show you that the number of members to select the person. Excellent. I love the way you're thinking there, Gary. Gary, at some stage, I would like to hear from you. You sound like you have some clear systems happening there. Feel free. Now might be a good time if you like. Thank you, Alison. Certainly we'll catch up next time.
Can you hear me? Excuse me, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Very good. What we have found is that the members of clubs who have even further involvement in their Toastmasters journey tend to stay members in the Toastmasters system, whether it's within our club or another club, much longer because they feel that they are involved, that not everything is dictated to them. We have people of all ages. We have millennials, we have seniors, and there's really no difference between any of them. Everybody seems to work with everybody. I moved into this club, my home club, about 2 years ago from another club. As I mentioned earlier on, we are the oldest club in New York City. It puts a lot of pressure on me as the president and now as a division director overseeing that club as well. For the first time in what we could see is almost 20 years, I was able to help the club achieve President's Distinguished in that nearly 20 years this past year. And that is because of the members who were going on and understanding what their progress was to get their CCs, their CLs, and all of their advanced manuals and their awards for those.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. I agree with you entirely. That ownership is so important. We are all adults and we should be able to take control of our own. Moses was asking what your definition of a millennial is. I'm not sure what yours is, so please feel free to add that into it. So asking for people to request a speech is part of that ownership. Prior to that, this is when the VP would step in and maybe have a conversation one or add a conversation to point out the importance of planning ahead and setting their goals. I think this is so important in an advanced class as it is in a beginner class. If you know that you want to reach competent communicator by the end of your first 6 months of being in that, then you can set that goal in Easy Speak. The VPE will then know and they can check that and just make sure that you are tracking well in your ability to be placed in the meetings as a speaker. You may also have some advanced Toastmasters in your group who are forging ahead and wanting to complete their advanced leadership from silver. There are some requirements for those leadership roles that will need to ensure that they have a space for meetings by the. So knowing that in advance, then you would certainly have a better success rate, I believe, in making sure that your speeches are requested in advance and scheduled in advance. From my point of view, having a full agenda is the ultimate goal for every meeting. All right, let us think about now assigning those meeting roles. Each one of those meeting roles, of course, is listed as part of a project in the Competent Leadership Manual. So I'm wondering now what process you use before assigning those meeting roles across a number of months to your members? Is it first in, best dressed? Is it that the VPE will carefully look at some of the background information first, find out who needs to do certain roles in order to complete your project? Or is it a process that you a mentor so that the member will look ahead and find out what time they have available and what roles they are capable of doing in the time available? So in the text chat, can you tell me what you do, apart from the technical aspects of using EasySpeak, how do you know that the meeting roles that you're about to assign your members will suit those members in your answers? And if you would like to come forward and use the microphone. So whilst you're thinking and typing in, move on. This is too hard to read, but I just wanted to point out to you that one of the things that I often do as a VPU is that I have a look at the role for the members of a particular club before I start allocating or assigning roles. One way to find out what they've done, what they still need to do, and whether or not they have been a regular attendee and can be relied upon to come to the next meeting and do those roles. So for me, I think it's important to find out first from them what has been done. And this is where EasySpeak does help a great deal. So I would have a look at this little chart about the attendees' roles and when they last attended, and looking then again at the next meeting, I have a better idea on who is doing what. Now, Gary, I'm looking at your answer now. Twice a year, and when a new member signs up, the VPE asks what the member's goals are. Yes, good step. Yes, coming back to some basics before any of this place, I've asked the new members what it is, especially if they have previous experience. Then sign up for a goal date or when they want to complete it. And I think that is a terrific way to ensure that the ownership is remaining then with the member. So after I've had a look at the roles and attendances, I would then go back to my agenda and select the role for a particular member using the drop-down. And this is a very simple, it's the easiest thing to do on the agenda in EasySpeak. One of the other things that EasySpeak does for you is it tells you how many days prior the person fulfilled this same role. So that's another little heads up for you when you are looking at the list. Thank you for your comments. Keep them coming into the text chat. We do have quite a lot of opinions and a lot of learning takes place down there in the text chat. Cooperative learning. So when you're using this screen, the assignment screen for an agenda, the drop-down list is showing in the preferred order. At the top of the list are those members who are freely available to take up any of those. And then those who've performed that particular role before, it will show you how many days ago that they had done that. It will also show you a list of the guest speakers. Remember that they too can fulfill a role. If you've got someone coming along to your club for the first time, maybe they don't want to join, maybe they are a guest speaker, make sure that they have the status of guest speaker so that you can then. Right, before we go on to checking member progress, can we see if there's any more comments or questions about the leadership roles? Gary is asking a question here now. When you give a new member their first leadership role? Anyone like to add their answer in the chat or come? Whilst you're thinking, I will give you my answer, Gary. And what we do in one of my land-based clubs is ensure that the member has been at 3 meetings as a member prior to giving the leadership role. And the very first leadership role that we might give them is usually simple, and it could be something like a quiz master, or it could be the grammarian. We tend to think that people can handle these 2 roles easier than the others. We wouldn't expect a new member to be doing an evaluation until they've had features under their belt. Timekeeper, that's an interesting one, Renee. We tend to keep that for a little bit further down the track because it's so involved. And what we've also begun doing is having an assistant timer. So certainly a new member might become an assistant in my class. And in Gary's club, the first role that's given to a new member is done in a partnering situation. I like that idea. And our council, yes, that one. That's a nice simple one to use. I found that too. The comment about the sooner they have a role, the more interest they might have. I find that even before they become a member. Very recently, I allocated the role of quizmaster to a prospective member who's been coming along for a few meetings. For time that he had more of a voice, and he really accepted that challenge so well that it prompted him to sign up that night. So it does work. All right, how are we going for time? All right, in the next 15 to 20 minutes, we might just go through some of the ways you can check the progress and then how you can use the control panel to help set up your meetings the way you want them. Reading that comment, Gary. Go and listen to people speak, sit in the hotel lobby. Okay, we're finding that Australia, we are taking our Toastmaster meetings into a pub. We quite often find a pub location, that's when you hear lots of people speaking. What I'm showing you now is the speech list. This is one way that you can check on the progress of your members in respect to the roles that they have played in meetings prior to one that you're scheduling for. You met Tracy Green. Excellent. Tracy Green was our mid-class district director for district. So in the speech list at the King Arthur's Playground, we can have a look at one at the top here, a list of the speeches that have been requested. And below it is a list of those that have yet to be scheduled. So by doing that, you get a broader view of what the membership is wanting to do, what their previous history has been. So it's a bit hard to read that amount of detail, but if you're in your own site, go to your speech list and find out what your club members have done recently. Double check that I'm giving you the right menu items. So to find the speech list, this time it's under this club. All right. Okay, and Now I'm just going to move on to this club menu where you can see all the different charts. I have another question for you, and either come to the microphone or pose it in the chat. Do you use the charts to check on the progress of your members? Joanne, would you like to answer that question for us in voice?
Do I use those charts?
Yes, any of the charts.
No. Well, actually, I have used Street a few times. I will go in and try and work out when the last time someone completed a role, and then whether I know that the system, we've set the system up to not assign someone who has done a role 4 meetings before, but I'm just sometimes curious to see if it's been more than 6 months or a year or however long the last time someone's done a role, and then that way then I can determine whether that person should do that role coming up soon. If that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks, Joanne. I use that same process. Check on the role history of the person. Sometimes you find that by chance, it seems that the same people are in the same role more consistently. And it just might be that we haven't kept our eye on things happen. So one way to double check for the future allocation of roles is to go back in the role. And Doug, I can see you moving around there. You might want to turn your video camera off so that it's not quite so obvious. So if you're hearing me, Doug, just turn your video camera off. You'll be able to hear me. Gary, I'm interested to find out from you as to how your own club uses the charts, or what you tell your VPs when you are training them about the use of charts. If you like to come to the microphone there.
We are looking at the chart. We find that it's really important to keep updated on the progress of the members early in the year, and especially when we get to March and April. This way we can really focus on those who are close to receiving an achievement, and we can help move them even further along. It's something that helps them. It obviously helps the clubs and it helps the districts. Not many members aren't always aware of what really is needed, and what I like is that there is the visual of changing a completed project to green if you are working on your CL, that you'll need one of these plus 2 of these. We also find that especially VPEs don't necessarily know how to help their members fulfill some of the roles, especially the mentor roles and helping with the newsletters. When I do the trainings for VPE training in the TLIs, I give them the hints of what they could be doing, whether they use EasySpeak or not. But I know that since they've been using the EasySpeak, they're much more in tune with their clubs, especially starting off with this new year. Now that we are 2 months in, they've imported all of their information and really have an idea of how their club is operating and who the harder working members are just by having these visual clues.
Entirely with you about the impact of those visual prompts. I've even gone to the extent recently of going back to basics and using some of the physical charts. You know the ones that I mean that we used to use, where the names of the members were listed on the left-hand side and all of the projects that they completed were signed off, and that chart tacked onto the wall somewhere for everyone to see. And I've recently been setting up a new club, and in the pack that was sent out, TI included those charts. So there's one for competent communication, one for competent leadership, and one for the DCP. And in the smaller club, where it's easier to display such charts, you can very often see a difference in the way the members not compete with one another, but compete with themselves and make sure that they're on track. So I like the whole idea of the visual prompts. And many of those visual prompts are available inside Easy Speak charts. So on occasions when I'm giving VPEs a head up on how to motivate some of the members to another level, is to go in and print out the detailed chart for an individual so they can see for themselves. And that's a good idea too. If you've got a graph of the progress of the members, it could go into your club newsletter. So what we're really uncovering today are ways in which you can make different use of the data that's inside the EasySpeak or data that you have in any tool to enhance the progress of the members. And one of the things that I do on occasions for people who have lost sight of just what they have achieved or they've come back into the club after an absence, if EasySpeak has been recording them for several years, you can check back in those meeting lists using the roles by meeting, filtered by the list up the top here. And I'm wondering if anyone has used that before and can tell me how far back you can actually check in EasySpeak for members' progress. And the reason I've brought that one up here now is because recently a member had returned to a club, had completed some things, but had lost track of that in her own records. So by going back several weeks, or several months, in fact several years, we were able to track through what that person had in fact achieved and then go ahead and apply for the awards accordingly. So this role by meeting became very, very important. That's right, Joanne, you can go right back to when the club first started using EasySpeak because the records are all in place. That is the major benefit of this tool. It is a very sophisticated database. So if you're not yet convinced about using it, then that fact alone might influence you. So that's the roles by meeting chart. Now let's find out if there are other questions or comments that you wanted to talk about now. I'm going to leave it up to you for the next 10 minutes or so. And Gary's brought up a very important point there about the fact that a member's achievement records travel with them. Especially important for that member if they're moving around in different clubs are all using EasySpeak. Even those clubs that don't use EasySpeak, if that member has their own record somewhere, you can add that in to their EasySpeak profile. Gary, look, I find that is so important for our online clubs. It's a pity that Moses is not here still, but the online clubs have members from across the time zones and around the world. And it's Easy Speak that allows them to ensure that everything they do in their online clubs is actually tracked and recorded. Absolutely, the books themselves don't always cut the mustard. That some people, especially in advanced situations, don't bother taking their manuals with them. And if they're in an online club, how do they get them signed? Well, one of the things that we do with the roles, speech evaluations, etc., in online clubs is we get a copy, a PDF form of the evaluation sheet, and people fill that in and send it to others in online clubs. True, Joanne. Look, that is a big question, isn't it? That some of the clubs are hesitating in using it because it's complicated to set up. So what do you do? What do you say to them, Joanne, in that case? Excellent. I like that answer, Gary. So let's find out from Gary how you can get set up in 20 minutes. Maybe you'd like to.
It's really funny. I don't know how it operates around the world. I know New York City is its own animal. Just in New York City alone, for our district, we are 229 clubs. There are multiple clubs and buildings around the corner, across the street. There are more clubs than Starbucks within walking distance. And what we do, we find out how clubs have been tracking. Once we find out that they've been using Excel spreadsheets, that's an automatic to get them into using EasySpeak. Especially when they become new VPEs, the first question I ask when I train is, how many of you were trained by the previous VPE? And no hands go up. They are given a binder with Excel spreadsheets or automatic tracking. I easily walk them through. I let them know where on EasySpeak to find up how to set up the club for the basics, how to set up an Excel spreadsheet, which most of them have already with the members' information, and how to import it into EasySpeak. I let them know that if they need help, they could submit a question on EasySpeak and somebody will respond rather quickly. There are times I'll submit a question and I'll get responses, 10 responses in 20 minutes. Sometimes it just happens people are reading it and are always willing to help. I let them know that they do not have to go at this alone. There is always help 24 hours a day. And once they import that initial information and they see it in the system, they're happy to start getting it up and running, and then tell me that as they have more time, they'll start adding the members' achievements into the system. But if they can alleviate a lot of their work by getting the members to sign up for the roles and have an agenda that's automatically printed with a name and a speech title. And we always stress how important a speech title is, because I've always been told a speech without a title is like a child without a name. And that always makes them laugh. Once they see that and they see the system basically set up, they start fiddling around and realize how easy this is. And once the VPE sees it, they get the rest of their officers in, and everybody says, how come nobody's ever told us about this system before? And I say, well, it's been around for 10 years, and some people think that Toastmasters is the world's best kept secret. I say, no, Easy Speak is the world's best kept secret.
Ah, yes, I like that very much. Thank you for sharing that wisdom with us. I was paraphrasing, and I hope I've done that correctly. I like the idea of your New York. I think that so many more of our areas might learn from that. And you mentioned the use, I think you called it a binder, and I imagined that that was a basic user manual. Is that what you meant, Gary?
When I said binder, sometimes people don't have a a large notebook or massive sheets of paper on an envelope that are passed along to them. I know that was what was given to me 2 years ago when I came to my club. I had agendas for the past several years, and they said, "This is what we have. It's yours. Enjoy it. Do whatever you want to do with it." And that was the tracking system.
Mm. I think if you've got something like that as a starting point, then you do make the job easier, that's for sure. One of the things that we've been trying to do in various ways to ensure that everyone knows that there is help, as you say, it's so important to get that help, not only by going into the knowledge base Q&A every week, but to come along to the Facebook group too. The one that I monitor is called the Easy Speak Toastmasters Community, and we find that any questions that are posed in there are answered usually within an hour. The other thing that we are also wanting to ensure people know about is the various resources that are being built and provided by many different users around the world. And we're trying to build more of that and to make it accessible from EasySpeak itself. So in our easyspeak.org, there's a link to the course that I developed some years ago now called Easy Speak Made Easy. And in that course, we have put together much of the resources that have been donated, used, and shared with other people. And that includes copies of all the webinars that I've done personally. So being able to get people like yourself, Gary, and others who have done the hard yards is really important to me. And I'm so glad that you joined us today because I'd like to keep up our conversation one way or the other. And Gary, I just need to ask you to answer this. Are you a member of the Facebook group Easy Speak Community? And so we can get you. Oh, good. Good. Yes, you must be because I saw that you had registered. And in there, we can direct people to many other tools, resources, and help desks that are available to make life easy. Easy Speak Anonymous. I like that one. So, Joanne, one simple question that you asked there, I think we've gone on a very useful journey there in trying to get some ideas so that others can follow. Now, I know that Lynette is still at the stage of setting up her club in Easy Speak and is a frequent visitor to our webinars. So I'm hoping that you're getting a lot out of these. So thank you for coming along. And Doug, I see that you've been listening and wondering if you have any questions that you'd like to pose in the chat for us. I know that you're not yet using Easy Speak and you're looking at the reasons why. There are a couple of manuals around actually, yes, Joanne. One of our keen champions in just has made one, Simon, last name. But what we're trying to do is ensure that we point out these new resources to the Facebook group so that you can get hold of them. I'll make a point of Simon if he has that available now. He hadn't quite finished it. So that would be a really good one to follow. All right, we've come to the end of quite a busy hour. In fact, we've gone over the hour. Just see if there's any other questions. Now, what I have done is this is the one that will help you if you are wanting to practice and you don't want to do it in the site that you've just created. You can go to King Arthur's Playground at any time at districtwebmasters.org. Log in as any one of those executives with the same password. The mini BPE, King is president, Peter Pan is the webmaster, and Gandalf is the current BPE. So needed to go, it was very late for him. The other I am planning now is the next boot camp date will be Thursday, October the 13th at the same time as this one. Seems to work reasonably well across the time zone. And I've created a little tiny URL there for your time zone. I'll post this one to the Facebook group as soon as I've finished processing this one. So do put that in your diary for Thursday, October 13th. And I'm looking now for ideas on what to include in that one. I think after we've finished the boot camps, we will probably look more to the advanced. So I'll do one in October, one in November, and then we can rethink. Thank you everyone for joining me today. I enjoyed your company, wisdom, questions. Okay, Lynn. Yeah, once you get that site fixed, that will happen for you. Yes, if you've got someone to help you with that, I think that's the best way to go. All right, thank you everyone for joining me for Boot Camp 2. Coach Carol signing out. And I'll now close the recording.